Hey, folks, thanks for tuning into this episode of Real Talk Fishing with No Limits. First off, just thank all of you for tuning in. This has only been going on for a few months now, and I think we're on episode 16. It's growing fast, so hearing lots of positive comments out there from everybody, so appreciate that a ton. We'll keep this going as long as we can keep the guest on here. And if there's somebody or something you want us to discuss or you want to hear about, you want to see on here, drop some names and information and suggestions down in the comments below, and I will do my best to get them on this podcast. So I know we're thinking of a lot of certain names, and trust me, I've contacted all of them already. Some of these we're strategically placing throughout the year. Other ones just maybe they'll come around someday, maybe not, whatever. It's their opportunity to share some info with you guys and get real. So just a shout out to all of you followers and listeners. Appreciate it a ton. You make this thing what it is, and it's a good time. So we just finished up the episode at Lake Erie with the team, and I'm going to try to do those whenever we can at the next few events, assuming that we're all going to them. Had a real poor showing at the first one. Something really weird happened day two with me. It's hard to explain, but I just really basically didn't even fish. Got a couple fish and got out of there. But today we're going to talk to the guy who had good things happen to him and finished second place at the first National Walleye Tour stop out of Fort Clinton on Lake Erie. We're going to talk to Hunter Nitti, so stay tuned. Hunter's going to give us a little bit of insight on his scoping abilities, what he did, how he targeted these fish, and just who's Hunter. He's kind of new to this NWT world anyway. He's been doing tournaments for a long time and pretty well known. But let's get to know Hunter a little bit better. And we're just going to dive in and see what it's all about. So stay tuned for Hunter Nitti. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning into this episode of Real Talk Fishing with No Limits. Today we are with Mr. Hunter Nitti. Put all those, made that one word almost for you. And coming off his second place finish at the National Walleye Tour out at Lake Erie. Hey, man, how's it going? I mean, it's going good, I imagine.
Oh yeah, it's going good. It's been the almost week after the tournament. I mean, I've been doing a lot of things for my sponsors and a lot of podcasts, and it's been pretty awesome. I'm still responding to text messages. My phone absolutely is still blowing up, and I know I'm not going to get through them all, but I kind of put a little thing out on Facebook saying thank you. Sorry if I don't, but it's been pretty cool, and I'm just taking it easy now and waiting to get ready for the next one.
Yeah, that's take them. They don't come often unless you're John Hoyer, maybe. But they do come, and then just take it because the next one's just around the corner, and your yesterday's news. So maximize that time, get out there, get in front of people. Do whatever you can for those sponsors. Talking about the baits you're using. We'll get into all the tournament stuff here real soon. But you're no stranger to this tournament fishing. You're just second year on NWT, right?
Yep, second year on NWT.
But you've been doing the local stuff, AIM, I think, right?
I think
you've been doing this for a long time.
We did. I've been doing the MTTs, which is really local Minnesota stuff I was probably 17, 16, really hard. And that was in 2016. We were doing that hard and we said, hey, let's jump into the AIM, like 19 or 20. I fished the AIMs for a while and did fairly well in the AIMs. And now I'm on to the NWT, and I still actually try to fish as many of the other ones as I can too. So I'm pretty busy throughout the summer.
It's pretty addicting, isn't it?
Yeah. I keep up them was slow down and I just can't. And then you get done with the first tournament, you're signing up for tournaments that aren't part of anything that gotta go fishing the next weekend.
Yep. And then when you're hot, you're hot. If you're on a roll and you got a little extra jingle in your pocket. I mean, hell, the gas, bill isn't cheap going to Erie. So, you probably got half of that left, I'm sure. So after all that, it went up like 70 cents one day while we were out there. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but
yeah. And I just walked in. I didn't even start filling up yet. I was just going to grab a pop and some waters for the day. And lady looks at me. She goes, you better get back out there and fill up your boat and truck. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, in about 5 minutes, I'm bumping up to 70 cents more. And I'm like, oh man. I'm like, all right, just leave the stuff on the counter.
Right.
Out there. And I walked back in and got my pops and waters. And I'm like, and she's like, yep. And she ran around and filled her car up quick too.
Yeah, that was brutal. I drove by a gas station more than the boat was fine. I was like, I need to top the truck off. It was like 318. I'm like, I'll just do it when I get off the water and then I'll fill the boat up as well. Well, then, yeah, I got off the water and it was 375 to 380 something, depending on where he went. And I was like, what the hell? You know, bad idea.
Yeah.
Bad idea. It is probably one of the biggest expenses for us turning pros throughout the whole season, just the fuel. And when you start to get close to $4 a gallon, it doesn't make it any better. But
Yeah, 100.
we're going to hitting Red Wing next, close to home closer for me and considerably closer for you. So
Yeah,
we're looking forward. That's got to be good.
yeah, very close. I'm only 30 minutes away right now, so
That's real good. So I come up
there.
4.5 hours. So for our listeners that, maybe some guys out there don't know who Hunter is, let's go back a little bit and just tell a little bit about yourself, where you're coming from, you married, wife, kids, what do you do when you're not fishing? What's your background? How'd you get into where Hunter is tournament fishing nowadays?
So yeah, no wife, no kids, which is great as a tournament fisherman.
Right.
Love fishing. I worked for my old man at he owns a garbage company and roll off company down in the city in Minnesota, and I worked for him when I'm not fishing or I'm not hunting. I get once hunting season, I go crazy with that, and when it's fishing season, I go crazy with that. So we're running around constantly. I'm constantly here when I got free time. So, and yeah, I started fishing tournaments when I was pretty young. I was constantly, I was 6, 7, 8 years old. I was standing on the dock at the resort on Mille Lacs, Nitti's Hunters Point, and there was a few times that some guys were looking for partners, and my grandpa was like, "Hey, I'll pay for the tournament. You let Hunter jump in with you." And so I jumped. I didn't know a dang thing, and I knew how to cast a line, and that was about it. And watching bobber go down. So I jumped into some tournaments doing that, and over time, I kept jumping into more. And there was actually guys that were like, "Hey, I want Hunter in my boat." So then it became a thing, and I was like, if I got to do this kind of full time a little bit more, do the whole series instead of fish 3 or 4, and I got to find a guy to fish with. And I started fishing MPT with Trent Grunkley. We fished every tournament throughout the year and fished the championship. So that's where I really got into it. And me and Trent did well for the 3 years I think that we fished together. I think we had a few second place team of the years and a fourth, and yeah. But then Trent had a kid, and then he didn't know if he could fish them all. So then me and my uncle started. Me and my uncle are like best buddies. We hit it off right away, and we were having a great. Then that's when he was like, "Hey, let's go fish the same circuit. Let's just go do it." It's There's a few tournaments a year. It's not crazy like MTT where we got a pile of tournaments a year. He's like, we could start that season. Yeah, let's go hard at the AIM stuff. So that was I think that was about 2020 or 2019. Could be wrong on both. Could be no, it's 2020. And we entered the AIM. We ended up taking team of the year that year, and we won the championship on Lake of the Woods. So that was pretty cool. That was a good way to kick off our first year on.
Yeah, it's not shabby.
Yeah. So, and this was all before live scope was a big thing too.
Right.
So I mean, I knew that's how I knew how to fish. I knew the traditional way of fishing. We cranked. I loved cranking. I loved pulling lead. I loved pulling up and figuring out, all right, if the wind's blowing on this hump this way, you got it on this side, put forks up on top or throw jigs, and that's how you're going to get them. And it was probably like 2021 was probably my worst year of fishing ever. That was when guys were live scoping, and I had it in my brain that, hey, you got a live scope to win tournaments. That it's just what's going on around me, and then you could do the traditional way and still cash checks pretty good. But I stuck in my head, I got a live scope, I got to learn it, and there's only one way to do it. And I got my butt whooped that year. If I had just fished my old ways, I'd done a lot better than sitting on a live scope all day during the tournament.
Yeah, but you hit a point there though. Is I can fish traditional and cash a check.
Yeah,
But do I want to win?
yeah.
I mean, you guys just proved it at Erie that game over.
Yeah, for sure.
It's, I mean, obviously trolling's got a place and it's awesome, and you may never touch a crankbait again, but it's, and I even, I'm sure you and Norton and Dewey and the guys that are really good at live scope had their trolling stuff and did a little trolling. I love rod in hand as well. That's just, for some of us that have ADD, right? It's just a better method for us. So, it works a little better than we're not so concerned about snacks all day because we're a little busy with our, rod in hand. But if you want a top 10 outside of Erie, I mean, a Red Wing's going to be a little, a different kind of beast when you hit, rivers like that. But it's live scoping.
Yeah.
It's just what it is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, it's, I've gone plenty places, but when it first started, I was that guy sitting there going, oh, you can't win everywhere doing it. You got to be able to win doing it a traditional way. And it was like tournament after tournament. And finally, somebody looked at me and said, when are you going to get through your head that this is the way it's going to be? You got to switch over. And I'm like, oh, I know. I get it now. I see it. Now that's all. I don't know if I will ever crank again, to be honest. I mean, there's places like Pool 4, Red Wing and 3 that, yeah, we might be cranking, but it's very possible, and I've tried it. I haven't figured it out yet. Possible that somebody could crack the code of scope a river, and the guy that does is gonna win. It's just flat out, he's gonna win. If you crack that code, you're gonna win it. I don't know how you're gonna crack the code. It's all day. I got crazy ideas. I'm like, no, I don't think it's gonna work. But the guy that does crack the code will win it. If nobody cracks the code, then it's gonna be one of the traditional.
Well, you got wing dams, and obviously you can use the pole mount type, system and looking back. But I mean, Lake Pepin's in play though, and I haven't fished there, so I'm assuming a little less current once you get into Lake Pepin, and that's probably a little bit more scopable.
Yeah, it's definitely more scopable, but it's still a river, and there's thousands of junk fish.
Right.
I mean, I have tried it on Pepin, and I won't lie to you. I threw the scope down, so overwhelmed. I'm throwing. I couldn't tell you what the heck they were. I mean, you're like, oh, there's a single, so that might be a walleye. You throw at it, and it's a big old white bass. And then there's
a
4-pack. You throw at it, and it's all drum. So, yep. I mean, I don't think when I scoped on Pepin, I don't think I caught a regular game fish, like either like a pike or a bass or a walleye. It was all just junk fish.
Just junk.
So it's somebody crack the code, that's for sure.
Yeah, that one will, Spring Valley was, river like that where, scoping really wasn't. It's used, I mean, it helps you, identify fish and not rocks.
Yeah.
But when it's ripping that much, it's tough to do it the way you guys are doing at Erie or like you do it on Mille Lacs and a lot of the other places. Now, Missouri River, we got Secaucus later in the year. That's much more scopable. It's larger impoundment reservoir. Definitely doable. I don't think anything's been won up there Secaucus doing it yet, but Oahe has. So it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Like this year, I'm sure. So
yeah, for sure. Probably a few guys that are pretty pumped to use it out there.
Yeah, and that's and that place is a target-rich environment, and it's not junk fish.
Yeah. So if you see them, it's probably a target.
Yeah, it's a walleye and it's a pike. You'll know it's a pike because that sucker's going to be 40, 50 inches long. It has got some big pike. It's phenomenal fishery. There's a lot of us old dogs that are having a hard time learning these new tricks, but I will say, I just came inside from installing a Garmin live scope in my boat.
Nice. There we go.
Done. Just done. I have Mega Live, so I'll move that one to the back and use it on a pole for like the wing dams.
Yep.
Love my birds, but I told my team, I said, if I get whooped on again by a active target or a live scope guy, that's it.
Yeah.
Saturday, I will have one. And I didn't have it Saturday because I was still on the way home since I blew a hub and was dealing with all that. But Monday, I went and picked one up and putting it in right now. So
no,
it's you want to play the game.
Yeah.
You gotta have the right pieces. So
definitely you got to stay up to date with what everybody's doing, and it's as bad as some people don't want to do it. And I wouldn't be mad if I had to go traditional way.
Nope, not one bit. Me either. But having all that knowledge and all that tournament experience you and then growing up, you've had, and then, just growing up fishing just makes your scoping ability that much better. So you don't have to just drive around looking for fish. You know where to go. You know the seasonal patterns. You know the areas. So you've already narrowed down a lake. Like Erie, right? You went Western Basin. Boom. Reefs are going to have probably pre-spawn fish.
Yeah.
Even though it was dirty all week and it was kind of hard to fish the area, but find those little pockets. Let's talk a little bit about that. How did you approach Erie going into this, and just how did it all unfold for you?
So yeah, we rolled into Erie, and before Erie right there, I was thinking, all right, these are pre-spawn fish. There's colder water. How are we going to get them? I had so many rods in my boat. I had my whole back of my truck full. I don't know if I need that many rods, but I had that many baits tied on. I had hundreds of different baits, hundreds of different colors tied on. And I was like, what am I going to make these fish eat? Because I will really badly want to scope them. And I just don't know if they're that active. So we got out there and the first, all right, we're cranking. We're going to do the normal thing that guys do out there. We're going to crank, try to go find a pot of fish that we like. And
It's a great way to cover water and find them at least, and then you can scope them.
yeah, for sure. I mean, great way to cover water, even if you're not, at least, so you turn around and go back and scope them. And that's honestly what I did. There was a lot of fish. It's Erie. There's fish everywhere. So it doesn't take long to run into the first pod. And do a big pod over by out east. And I was like, all right. I was rolling through them. All the water muddy. It wasn't crazy. I was kind of on that fine line of the non-mud, a little bit dirty. And I'm like, I mean, I can crank. And I one of them though. I'm like, what's going on? And I had a buddy with the whole week pre-fishing. And he's like, come on, a scope. And I'm like, yeah, so do I. So we put the scopes down, and I literally cast it on the first fish, and I was just sitting there floating, and he cast it in the back with the shuttle, and we doubled up. And he had a totally different bait on than I did, and I had a totally different bait on than he did, and we doubled up. And I'm like, oh my gosh. All right. Cranking rods are going away. No more. This is a lot easier than I thought. And these fish didn't just chase the bait for a while and take it. They turned and they ate it in seconds. I mean, I've never seen fish turn that fast and eat it. Like, yeah, this is, and both those in 27 inches. So I kind of like, I had that area in my mind right away. I was like, all right, this is a good area. And as I was going through there, we had caught multiple other big ones this first day that we were out there. But then there was that there was mud everywhere. The on mud pockets all the way around. There was little pockets. Pockets were closed. Um, those I actually never fished those fish again the rest of the week because I couldn't anymore be mud. And I knew I got into muddier spots where I would throw baits on fish and they would come down and fall right in front of their face. And I was sitting there shaking it, and they literally could not see them. They could not see the bait. And I know if they could bait, they would have ate it. So
Yeah, they're hungry.
yeah, or reacted to it. So yeah, it was just a race between finding the right fish and finding the water that you could fish in. And I would say I'm good enough with scope now that I can run around and I know what size these fish are when I'm going through them. So I know where the big pods, the big ones are, and the little ones are. And a lot of that super dirty water had a lot of big fish in it.
Yes, it did.
I'm even the
And your graph's full is solid.
solid big fish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody's like, where's the big fish at? Where's the big pods where you run through, you pull your cranks through, all your boards go back. And it's
Yeah.
all of them are at least over 26. And
They were all in the mud. They didn't want to come out.
yeah, they were all in that warm water in the mud. And
Yep.
I was like, man, that's where the 30s are. That's where the 20s are. And granted, there's not as many as there used to be in Erie, but they're still in there. And you could still run into a pot of fish that's that big in a week for sure. I mean, any guy could. And yeah, I'm like, they're in the mud. and I don't think they're going to come out. So we got to find somewhere where it's a little bit dirtier, not too dirty fish, and not too clear to find these big ones. And that's when we had to head it out to the cans. And we watched the satellite images every day. And that's where it just kept cleaning up and cleaning up and cleaning up, where that muddy water had cleaned up a lot. And that's where we're like, go find a pocket ones and all these small ones that are out there. I think it was like 3 days before they gone through. And there was a couple of us that had gone through, and we both had caught 5 big ones a piece in like 45 minutes. And we're like, all right, we need to leave these ones alone. As long as this stays cleaner, we're good. We'll be fine. And if we can scope them. So, yeah, we left them alone. We went for like an hour before the tournament, just looked at them, never casted on them. And I was like, you still there? And he's like, yep. And I'm like, yeah, they're still there. That's for sure. So that's where we started the tournament.
Yeah, I thought for sure that storm that rolled in Wednesday and the Menominee dumping in there, it didn't look, it wasn't great, but there was obviously clean water to move around. Like, it's just going to get worse. But apparently not. You guys got him. We wrecked him over there. So I yielded not to go there. It's a favorite spot to fish on that area. But that's one of those deals. A lot of guys you didn't have a satellite image going into Thursday because it got cloudy.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you're like, I'm going to, guys are going 40, 45 miles east. You're going, 8 miles over the Cans or 15 to Kelly's and Canada borderline. Everybody's like, I don't know. I just got to go and see what it looks like when I get there.
Yeah,
so,
sure. That was the thing that drove me crazy, was because we didn't have a satellite image because it was
right.
And in my mind, I'm like, if Kelly's, that north side of Kelly's and that northwest side of Kelly's, I go, if that cleans up, those guys are gonna hammer them. I'm like, it is gonna be, those guys will hammer them over there, because there was a lot more big fish over there. It was just that dirtier water, and it was in my mind all day that first day of the tournament, and it took till about 11 o'clock. I was like, 30, 34 pounds at 11. And I knew what the pre were doing, and I kind of was like, I'm going to put any more left. And I had rolled in, and I was like, all right, ooh. And I threw on her, and literally I closed, and I just watched my line jump. And I set the hook, and it was like I weighed her quick. She was just under 11 pounds. Somewhere. Then I tried to hunt down another one, and I could not find another one.
Yeah, that's a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's gonna be really hard to find. That water temp was insane for that. I mean, not crazy, but pretty crazy for that time of year.
Yeah, I caught them in the mud, muddier than you would normally ever fish there. Like 6-inch water clarity.
Yeah,
I caught them in it. I'm like, I don't know, it's so warm. I mean, obviously there was the nasty stuff. I think if you could get in the foot when it was 50 some degrees, they would go. Not near as good if they could see a little better.
yeah,
But same day I drove over a pod and went, oh, there's 5 of them right there, and had boards out. And I went, but a lot of these are on the bottom. I dropped a bottom bouncer down. I barely had that thing in a rod holder and had a 27-inch on a crawler harness.
yeah.
I'm like, I could have dropped anything down there, right? They would have just devoured it.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, what baits were you throwing?
I was throwing, well, my confidence bait right away was I tried on all Rapala stuff, because I got the Rapala sponsorship. I was like, I'm gonna catch them on Rapala baits. That was the go-to. And when we were pre-fishing, I was throwing a jigging Rap. It seemed to be a little too fast though for them, because that water was so. I mean, they really liked it. They reacted to it like crazy, but they didn't eat it in like the top of the jigging Rap. They lost it. They couldn't find it, and you could tell they were down there looking for it. But
you're pissing them off.
So I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to bobber. It worked, but it just took so long for it to get down to them, and then those fish out there were constantly moving.
Yep.
So, I mean, it was cool to watch a bobber go down early in the year though. And
Yeah, you bet.
yeah, so then I switched to a freeloader, a new Crush City bait, and I started with like a quarter ounce head, and I was just shaking right above their heads, and I noticed that okay, I can leave this bait in front of them a lot longer than I can most of my other baits. So yeah, that was I threw it a few times in practice, and that was my confidence bait.
Those you're catching them pretty suspended then, I assume. I mean, they were anywhere from 5 feet below surface to damn near on the bottom. But
Yeah, for sure. In the mornings, I was getting them suspended, and that's when that lighter jig head was
you
open.
know,
And then in the mornings, I mean, there was fish all over the water column.
mm-hmm.
Towards the afternoon, I watched the fish. I mean, not even towards like 10 o'clock. I watched the fish, and they all were just sinking down. And they would sink down, and there would still be fish on your graph 2D high. But look on scope, they were all small. They were your occasional 19s and your 20s, your 23 inchers. And yeah,
Cookie cutters, right? 23-inch cookie cutters. They're talking about what we're doing with Lake Erie walleye.
yeah, they were your cookie cutters. They're all high, and all your big ones are low. So that's when I tied on my head, like get down to them quick because you got more time. You get to them, and they're so. I went a little heavier. I even went 3/4 on the last day of the tournament. And yeah, I noticed that they were started throwing on those ones that were, and they were right fish. They were
I was going to ask you how heavy you had to go on day 2 in those 4 or 5 foot waves up there on the bow. Did you strap yourself down to the seat and put a 3/4 ouncer on?
it was crazy. I threw a 3/4 ouncer on. I wish I had like 1 1 1/4, to be honest. I mean, it was a battle. It was a mind game all day. Throwing, I bet I threw on 40 pounds probably 5 times and missed. Or I was, I mean, by missing, I mean inches off of a big one that just couldn't see the bait. And it drove me nuts all day long. And I think it was like 10 o'clock where I was just like, I need a sit. I'm wobbling around 6s and 7s, footers. And I had the camera guy at him like for a second. And he goes, you said it because I'm about to puke.
Yeah, it wasn't nice. I mean, it was send us out. It was fine. It was manageable. And it was like 9:30, I think, that wind turned, and yeah, it wasn't good from there. I guess just telling you, my co-worker was scared as hell, nervous. I talked to, I think it was Drake, said his guy got nauseous and just sat down in the back, and I'm sure there was a lot of that where the co's and even the pros were just like, time out, and then when you're staring at that screen and doing this, it gets tough. It gets tough on Erie just driving and watching your screens without getting, a little seasick and nauseated. So
Yeah.
that's, I mean, hats off to all you guys that scoped and did it and that. I mean, you flat out just proved if you can do it in that, you can do it anywhere and because you're not going to fish in any conditions like that again.
No, probably.
I hope to God you don't anyway, or at least in a tournament, I mean,
Like maybe, but
yeah, like we'll rip. But you're fighting the dirty water as well. So it sounded like, I mean, your cast, you had to be precise. I mean, they had to be right there, inches. You run a Garmin or Lowrance?
Garmin running all.
Garmin.
Yeah.
So is that a 20-degree cone?
It's about a 20-degree cone.
I think 20. I
Yeah.
think Garmin and Bird are 20 and Lowrance's are 18 or something. But hey, an extra couple feet is a couple feet. So
for sure, and you could definitely tell if you missed or not, and right away you could tell, and you're like, all right, burn it back in and throw on them again, and another wave would crash into you, and you'd lose where you were at. And there was a lot of times where I was dropping my bait down on fish, and it actually just ran into them, and they just spooked. They're gone. I mean,
all right.
I can remember right now 4 of them at least over 4 of them that were at least over 26, 27 inches that I threw on it. My freeloader just hit them. They just gone. And I'm like, oh, I was so close, but I just couldn't see my bait going down. So yeah, that was a crazy day. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you guys earned it. There's no doubt about it. I mean, and the fish, I anticipated the scopers were going to struggle a little bit on day 2 just because conditions, which none of you really did. You came in with bigger bags.
Yeah.
I think the fish were on fire second day if you could fish, if you could figure it out and stay in a manageable place. So because I was like, oh, I unfortunately was driving home, so I got to watch the weigh in on my phone. I'm like, there's bigger bags than yesterday. What the hell? I'm like, come on! I thought everybody's supposed to suck today. That was not the case. But the poor guys that went all the way east had to drive head into that stuff coming back, and I heard a handful of transoms are cracked up. The gentleman ripped his kicker off heading out. Part of that is don't go 50 mile an hour and that stuff. So, and a few guys came in early. Coast Guard had to go get a couple that had, breakdowns. But at least if where you guys right, kind of had it to your back a little bit, and then you could trough and come in. You weren't having to go head on into it, but of course you're scoping, so you're heading into the wind. And just keeping your trolling motor in the water was probably,
oh gosh,
a challenge.
It was a battle all day, and even though coming and going, I had been looking down all day and looking at the scope all day, and I'm like, I don't even know what direction things are wrong. I left a little early. I was about 15 to 20 minutes early because I didn't notice.
Right.
I started going that, I could trough these things all the way in. I'm not going with them perfect. I'm not going into them, and I'm like, we're going to be early. But by into that time where I knew I was going to be early, I was to the muddy water, and it wasn't worth stopping and.
Yep. Yeah, you don't want to turn and go back into it.
No.
Yeah, I same thing. Went in a lot early, but it was like, I'm not. This is too muddy. It's not fishable. This idea isn't going to work. The only other option is go back, and it's like, nah, that's not a good idea either. We're just going to tuck tail and turn. That that's tough, but outstanding. That was good fishing. It's changed the game out there, and they had that Lake Erie Walleye Tour jig 'em up tournament. I think followed us up, and they all had like upper 20s or something. But that's going to be the new thing. Bye bye bandits. Welcome to the scoping world over there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
For those who wondering, still trolling's a phenomenal way to put a ton of fish in a boat, and if you're just out there, you want to relax and have a good time. That is fun. I mean, you hit those schools like you said, and what's driving us. The guys I fished with nuts was you caught them no matter where the hell you put your crankbaits at.
Yeah.
I ran them snap weights, ran them deep, ran them high. I'm like, I'm catching them everywhere. So I can't, there's no pattern. I got nothing dialed in except, a hit stick was, the best thing in blue chrome. I'm like, every fish comes on that. That's all I got going. I was like, anywhere from 8 feet to 30 feet, they're biting. So
yeah.
And you'd have a double and it'd be the deepest one and the highest one.
Yeah, I know.
And they'd both be 26 or something. I'm like, well, I got nothing. Just run those ones high and run these a high, a deep, a mid, and a deep, and then a mid level, whatever. And they all just got fish. So fun nonetheless. So hey, we're heading to Red Wing. You say it's close to where you're at. What do you think? How's that one going to work out? What are we dealing with? I know you got low water over there, I think, but it looks like we got several days of rain coming. So
yeah, we got some low water over here. It's definitely picking up. It's gotten a lot better. I look at it almost every day. I fished the Freeze Your Butt Off tournament earlier this year. We had about 2.9. And right now it's about 6.9. So we've gained a lot of water. It's supposed to rain tomorrow and the rest of the week. So hopefully it just pours and it just comes down because it's going to be a battle where we're launching to get out of if we have low water, and it always has been. The minute you get low water in there, it's a battle to get out of there, and then we all gotta get out into 3, and whoever needs to lock through and all that going upriver, and so yeah, there's a lot of things are changing right now too. I mean, the fish are still spawning. I'd say there's probably 30% more of the fish to go to spawn. So they'll all be changing their habits here in a week or two. And a lot of things will change. I mean, I'm only a half hour away and guys are like, you should be fishing right now, getting figured out. And I'm like, now. I'm not gonna go figure out something and it's gonna change the next day right
It's
now.
just, yeah, it's a very, very difficult time to dial something in. And, the people always say, why don't you, some of you guys get a pre-fish for months. I'm like, a lot of that is, I mean, if you've never been there, there's nothing wrong with it. It helps get familiar with the body of water. I wanted to go and just get some trails and check the place out. But I said, your pattern or whatever you come up with, I mean, you can forget about that from your practice half the time, because once you take off a tournament, it's a whole new,
Yeah.
different weather, different situation. And this time of year, those, obviously when they get, the post spawn, and hopefully they're, starting to, put the feed bags on and move shallow again. But I don't, you got Lake Pepin's in play, and that's a whole kind of a little bit of a different, situation than, I guess, pool 3 or 4. I haven't fished any of it. So, but I love rivers. So looking forward to it big time. I think everybody's looking forward to it because the wind's not going to keep us off.
Yeah, for sure. No, it gets nice. It does get wicked and Pepin sometimes, but
Yeah.
it's once in a blue moon she flies right up the gut and she gets
All right.
wicked. So it's normally a very fishable area. I mean, you got all the, I don't know, the ridges, mountains, the cliffs that block the wind, and it's absolutely howling above you, and you're sitting there, and it's beautiful. It's flat, calm, and you find bends and turns that are a little rough, but it never really gets screaming. So, yeah, it's super exciting to get down there and actually have a big tournament down there, and it's it's one of those times of years where it can be won anywhere. It could be won in 3, 4, or Pepin. So,
So we're only getting 4 fish and 1 over 20.
yep.
So that's, I mean, obviously what you keep or the decisions you make are going to be what it boils down to. And do you throw back a 5, 6, 7 pounder? I mean, that place has got some tanks. I've been seeing all the photos that coming out of there the last few weeks. Now, granted, they'll be post spawn, but I mean,
Yeah, I
the
mean,
Mississippi's full of big fish.
yeah, it's full of big fish. And me and my buddies, we fish it in the spring. I've actually never really played around with it during our tournament time, just because it's opener then, or a week or two before then, and I'm back on the lakes. I'm on Mille Lacs and I'm on Winnie, and so I don't go down to the river. But we play on it a lot during the spring. It's something to do, and me and my buddies are there almost every almost every night after work. And I think my buddy said the other day, he's like, I think we're at about 29 fish over 10 pounds this
Jeez.
spring down there. And I think our biggest is 12-1, and I think we probably got 10 more over 11. But it's one of those places that any moment at any cast, you can catch that fish of a lifetime. There's a lot of 13s, not a lot, but they're around 13 pounders, and there is 14s and 15s down there. And I think I've heard of 3 over 14 this year already.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have post spawners, but those river fish are still fat. They put it, I mean, they're eating, they're healthy. They're going to still be 13, 14 pounds after
Yeah,
they're,
yeah, it's very possible. Very, very possible.
oh, that'll be fun. It'd be amazing to have a 4 fish limit come in. Well, 1 over 20, we're not going to have bigger bags than Lake Erie, but so, and then you got some really healthy saugers in the system too.
Yeah, that's definitely a player. Um, and some guys might go for the saugers that think they're bigger. It's kind of about all the area that they're in. I think that, all right, if there's an area with a lot of shad, if the saugers are in there, the saugers might be bigger. If the walleyes are in there, then those walleyes are going to be bigger. So that's going to be a factor there too. Honestly, it's going to be all about what you're on is going to be what you keep, and there's going to be, and I hope it's not us, but there's going to be some bad decisions made with the
Oh
way the
yeah.
spot is.
I mean, it's tournament fishing. It's a gamble, and that's what you're doing out there on the water. And I got one of those new Bubba scales,
Yeah.
which was great for Erie, but at practice, like you're saying, it comes in super handy. I don't know if a lot of people do it. I have a little notebook too, but I may catch 2.8 pounders that are 19 and 3/4 over here, and then 19 3/4 5 miles down are two and
Yeah.
a quarter,
Oh yeah.
but a lot of people just measure and go, oh yeah, they're good fish, and kind of do an eyeball test. But a lot of times you start weighing them. I mean, I fished several tournaments, Chicago one, where I'm like, no, I'm going here because those fish are all fatter because they're gorging on smelt, and you bring in the exact same bag the other guy got, but you're almost 3-4 pounds heavier.
Yeah. Literally. St. Francis Case was a good example too.
Yep.
There was a lot of fish. Like it could have been the right across the river from you, and they were all small, and then you were right across from them, and they were all big. I mean, that's definitely going to be a key thing to watch too.
Yeah, that and like you said, the live scope thing we're all gonna play and see if it plays into that one. If they can crack the code on Red Wing, that'll be something
That'll
something
be
to see.
great.
But I mean, I'll have my face down on that sucker plenty with both of them going. But that's when you river fish, it's junk fishing. You thought you brought a lot of rods to Erie, you bring a lot more to the river.
Oh yeah, big time.
I mean, it's poling, hand lining, lead, three ways, jigs, cranking, wing dams, live bait, willow cats, right?
Yep.
Which are apparently pretty hard to come by over there. It sounds like so, because I'm trying to find them already, and not having. I mean, there's some out there, but it's better get there early.
Oh, it's pretty tough.
Yep, you're there. I
They
just
just counted down. No, it's been a battle to find them before tournaments for years, and usually a few places will get them in. And if you're not the first guy there at 6:30, 7 o'clock when they open, you better be the fifth guy because they will be gone. I've stood
oh
in
yeah.
line multiple times, and they were gone before I got to the tanks, and they have
So
100 dozen.
yeah, in this world, one person will just buy them all, so that nobody else can have them. Which
Yeah.
good play, good defense. I get it. So
Yeah, you got to do it. It's like having that best crank, and there's one bait shop in the town, and you just walk in and buy the whole roll.
oh yeah. I mean, I think we've all been guilty of going, oh, I like those. Just give me all of them. I don't want nobody else to. Oh, you only have 7 left. I'll just take them all.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And then you're always like, well, that must be the good one. What color was it? And you're like, well, crap. Yeah, they're all gone. They're all gone for a reason.
Oh yeah.
Then you're driving to every little hardware store, whatever, trying to find that whatever UV perch or crazy color that must be awesome. All the locals bought it out.
Yep.
No.
Yep. No. Yeah. Very true.
But willow cats are like crick chubs on Skakawea. Crick chubs are a little easier to come by up there. They're all pain in the butt to keep alive, but the willow cats, man, they're like gold. They're expensive, but they work. Boy, do they work!
Oh yeah.
It's been one on willow cats a lot.
A lot. It definitely has, and I mean, man, them fish grab onto them, and you don't even have to feed them. You just have the hook.
Nope.
It's gone. It's buried. They love them.
Yeah, that's what I love about them is it's just the smallies or the walleye or whatever. It's just, and I don't know why you'd want to eat those things, but yeah, it's just thunk. And it's all, I mean, they're not as big as a chub, they're 3 inches maybe.
Yep.
But yeah, they just, crick chubs, typically in Minnesota, you're feeding them and you're setting your cell phone timer for 90 seconds when you feel a tick and you're just letting them mile worth of line out. You're like, oh, it's been a minute and a half. Well, oh, yeah, it's there. But Skakawea, crick chub, eat it like a willow cat.
Oh, that's awesome.
They just don't. It's gone. There's no feeding. There's no messing. Same thing.
No, that's awesome.
Which is nice because I hate that.
I hate that feeding it, and you're looking at your partner, and you're going, all right, we're going to make this decision together. Do I set the hook now, or do I keep feeding them?
Yep. I've had to feed them a little bit up there in the fall when the water's a little cooler, but in my spring to summer time there, they just wham, and they're hooked and you're cutting it. I mean, it's all the way down their gut.
Oh, wow.
I mean, when you reel them in, you just cut the line, leave it in there, and throw them in a live well because you ain't getting it out.
That's awesome.
And that's 3 to 5, 6 inch crick chubs, and you got big fish and you got pike and big smallmouth. So yeah, and that's the whole trick with feeding. I know when you're fishing like casts and stuff, and you're feeding that line out there, you're like to get it turned around. Then you do it too long, and now he's got it sucked all the way down. Right, which end am I going to pull this thing out of? And you're just cutting your line, and hoping that comes out on its own sometimes. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, that happens a lot.
That's a trick. We're off to a hot start. You got great points. Going to Red Wing, kind of a home body of water for you in a sense. You got good experience on it. I imagine there'll be a handful of locals in there, which always have an upper hand on a river.
Oh, yeah.
When you're knowing where to go, what to do, because it's all about the water levels.
Yeah.
And reading in current seams. I love rivers. There's a handful of guys that do well on the rivers. And then we go to Green Bay.
Yeah.
I think you just took a trip to Green Bay, if I
correct. Did. Yep.
You get in on that early rip and wrap pre-spawn bite.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. We were it was a Friday, and some of our plans had fallen through, and I looked at the boys and they said, well, what are we going to do? And I go, we're going to Green Bay right now. And I got some good buddies. They're just like, they don't say anything more. They're like, all right, I'm in. The
Let me
bags
grab my
were,
stuff.
yep, no fuss, no nothing. Bags were packed, and we headed to Green Bay. And man, that place is awesome. We got my buddy got his PB at a 12.4, and I think we had a 12.2 and a couple of 11s, and it was just a couple day trip. And Sunday we got a 4 or 5 hour drive home, and we're all like, all right, we're gonna leave at noon on Sunday. Well, we didn't leave till like 8 o'clock at night on Sunday because we couldn't stop. I was like, all right, one more hour. Nope, one more hour. It wasn't one more cast. It was one more hour, and it was wow. That's an incredible place. It really is. Those schools of fish are huge, and they're shallow, and you can sit and throw ripping wraps and hair on them all day long and just crack them. It's so fun.
They're the most just strong walleyes.
Oh God,
They'll rip the rod out of your hand when they hit. I mean, that's Green Bay. I just struggle there, but when I do get on them, I'm like, these fish fight and bite like no other. I mean, it's part of it's the presentation when you're throwing a rip and wrap or whatever it is, but they got shoulders.
oh yeah, they definitely got shoulders. It was amazing. My buddy got the 12.4. He set the hook and he goes big, and I'm like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
big. And the first thing I asked him, I go, did he eat it? And he goes, line jumped. I go, he ate it. It's a big walleye. He goes, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's a walleye. I go, it's a big walleye. If your line popped, I mean, he ate it, and it's a big one. And yeah, it ended up being a big one.
It takes a big fish to inhale that big bait.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And to get it all the way down their throat like that. But yeah, when you see a line go, doop,
yeah,
it's in.
It's in.
It's pop. It's go. That's the best feeling. That's it, right? That is it. When you get to see it and then it resonates in your brain, like, oh yeah, I got to do something now. When you reeled out and you ripped at the same time, and when it's just when you've said it and it just stops, and you're like, you might still be moving, but your rod doesn't go. You're like, oh yeah,
that's her.
Now, when you get that feeling in a tournament, then it's real good. Which you just probably had that feeling quite a bit last week. So
yeah, no, it was all. Yeah, I did quite a bit.
3 fish limit for a Green Bay tournament. So it'll be interesting how that one unfolds, and it'll be a forward-facing game all day, day. Yeah, if you're going to be in the top 10 for sure, you can pull spinners and cranks, and there's a couple guys really good at it. Sprinkle can pull the hell out of crawler harnesses. Hummel can, and you can catch nice fish, and you can get more lines out. But we only need 3. So
yeah.
Then Sakakawea, which will just be awesome place and good fishing. Everybody will have a good time there. And then championship over to Huron. So that will be. I would say we get through Red Wing. It's forward facing is. That's the game.
Yeah, I would say the same thing for sure.
I think I put some of my trolling rods up today in the top of the garage, and I don't outside of guiding, they're not coming down. So
yeah, for sure. I took my kicker off. So
did you?
Yeah, I got I'm double power pulling it, and I just said, you know what, it's just not the way it goes anymore. You just can't fish with it anymore, and a lot of guys like leaving their kicker on for the safety factor, and I understand that.
Yeah.
But our group of buddies was like, "Who's gonna do it first? Who's gonna do it first?" And I'm like, yesterday I was like, "All right, I'm doing it. It's totally worth it." And I'm like, "Yep, I don't think I'm gonna troll the rest of the year." So, yeah, I'm pretty pumped. I'm pumped for the season. Very pumped.
It's really how you got to go into it. I think you got to be all in. You just got to commit to it. And if you're even, if you're just learning it, you're not good at it, whatever the case is. I mean, I'm not talking about leaving the trolling rods in your truck. I'm talking about leaving them at home.
Yeah, at home. Yep, for sure.
So that, and I'll probably struggle with that a little bit. I'll probably be in my truck, but you got to commit, and then that's it. And that's all you can do. But how many times do you got to get beat by somebody doing this stuff to jump on board people, right? And some never will, and that's fine. Like you said, if there's going to be checks cash doing whatever else, not just forward facing sonar. Did Ryan Buddy get third at Erie? I think Ryan got third.
Yeah, he got third.
Yeah, he was obviously cranking up out east, and there was some nice fish out there. And poor Jack, 40-pound bag. I thought 35 was going to be big.
Yeah,
and I was shooting for 30 a day. We were getting at 28-ish, in practice to 30. And I thought, well, and grind those spots out. So you're like, I can get 20 in practice when I just hit it once or twice, tournament day. This turns into 30 plus pounds. It turned into 23 and 25-pound bags instead. But, it's like, hey, but those guys, he brought in 40 and he waited right. I pulled into the parking lot same time I did. I was like, oh, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
I was like, good for you. Those are 40 pounds. I'm like, good God, that's wait, I'm way off thinking 30 was going to be good, but he set the bar, pretty high. And unfortunately, that did not work out for him day 2 after even another long run to get him. And, yeah. Some of the guys that fished out that way said he got there, made a pass, caught one and left. But I mean, they had a 3-hour drive to get back in almost. So, yeah. But you can't not go when you're leading it and you got this. And you got it, and the fish were there because Buddy fished it. I mean, all those guys still pulled. There was a lot of top 10s that came out of those groups.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's just a long run in those ways. But then again, day 2, you're leading it. You can't not go. You can't not. I mean, it's what you got, and what's there, and anything can happen. And that one pass, you could have got them. But
and from what I understand is most of them picked all their fish up on 1 or 2 passes. Yeah, and it wasn't a very big pass, pretty short, and they were on a hot pot of potentially large fish. I picked up a triple on day 1 of 4.5 pounders.
Yeah,
and it was like, oh, well, there goes that 1 pounder, 2 pounder, and 3 pounder out. Now we got, and that's what we ended up with the day with because it just didn't get much bigger. So it can happen fast. So the drones, it's a big part of the game, and watching those planar offshore boards go back is always fun. The big boy bobbers, when they were going down. So, nonetheless, we covered a lot of tournaments. I mean, you're ready to go. You're pumped up, ready to get to Red Wing. Makes 2 of us. Need some serious redemption. I need to do really well to make up some horrible points. You're sitting good for the AOI race, obviously, with sitting in second. You get. I'm trying to think of how that pans out. 2, you get 3 top 10s.
Yeah,
you got her down, and obviously, Red Wing's setting up good for you just with that experience on it. I think you're gonna. Obviously, you hope to do well there, but you're also thinking, hey, this is my one to shine on.
Yeah,
probably.
Yep, for sure.
Where do you think this forward facing is going in the future? Obviously, Wisconsin, they're trying to do some crazy stuff over there with it. Minnesota.
I don't know. I think it's going to last a lot longer than we think. I think it's definitely going to be a lot longer than a lot of guys think. And I don't know what this Wisconsin thing, how it's going to go, what's going to happen there. I haven't looked into it too much. I know some guys have looked into it a lot, and they said, I don't know if it'll happen.
And that's just a public opinion type thing over there. That wasn't brought up by a DNR or a Game and Fish or nothing like that. So when there's a petition more or less, put forward, then you have to have a hearing and discuss. But something like that is going to take a while. And like I agree, it's not going anywhere in the walleye world for a while. Bass is a different. Apples and oranges, but as far as tournaments goes, they kind of set the precedence for it. If it becomes something, then I would see us following suit down the road, and it may be just not allowed in tournament, but you can use it for practice, or maybe just you can only have one. You don't need the 5 transducers on your boat like some of the guys are running nowadays.
It's crazy.
It is crazy, but they're tools in the toolbox, and if you can afford it and know how to use it and want to do it, it's your money, right? Yeah. So you still got to catch them.
Yeah.
Still got to make them bite. Like you said, I brought all these things. I don't know how I'm going to get them to chew. And then you found out, hell, these things will chew whatever I put in their face almost. But obviously there's baits that work better than others. And
yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely baits that work others than others. And, the guys that are live scoping now, if it lasts 5 more years or 10 more years, and then all of a sudden it changes and it goes back to we have to traditionally fish and we only have 2D and we only have side scan. It's crazy. I mean, obviously you gotta know a little bit before you live scope. You gotta find the fish. You gotta know what these fish are doing. But it is crazy the stuff that you learn using it. It's unbelievable how, like on Erie and certain areas that I was in, I learned that these guys that are cranking around me are probably all pulling mono or fireline, and I'm not going to tell them, but they're better off pulling lead, and you learn those things. You learn what these fish are doing, and it just puts you that much further ahead of the guys that aren't doing it. It's crazy.
I pulled lead.
There you go. See, if I had to do it, honestly, day 2, when I was thinking about it, I'm like, I got lead in here. I haven't pulled lead. If I'm gonna have to pull cranks and I can't scope in this stuff, I'm pulling lead. And I never did, but that's what I would have done.
I did it. I didn't do it in a tour. I did it in practice. I ran shorties out the back with lead, and
Yeah.
I ran a big spinnerbait.
Yeah.
And Ted ran a paddle tail. Got him. Got the biggest fish. 1 ounce jig with a paddle tail.
Yeah.
Snap weight. Got him.
I believe it.
Got him good.
I believe it.
Same thing you're scoping, right? You just got that paddle tail just
literally
swimming through there at 20 feet, 25 feet down, whatever, and they were 28 inches crushing it.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if he got any on it in the tournament, though. We got him every day of practice on it.
Oh, man. I believe it. And it was all about getting that bait down to them. And once you figure out your calculation on where you need to be, they're going to eat it. It's just like scoping. If you got them at the right level and they're all at that level, you can beat a scoper. But the thing is those fish are usually not always at the same level. And
no, like we said, they were all over and they were moving fast.
So, yeah, big time.
And that reef complex we're at, there's a ton of little ones too. So if it's struggling, all you got to do is slide up a little bit, and you can pop those 3-pounders and fill out your bag in no time.
Oh yeah, it's easy. I think day 1 of the tournament, I just rolled in and I was like, yeah, we're just gonna get 5, and I don't know, I probably went like 20 plus cast in a row, and I don't think I had a single way fish, but I was like, we got our 5, and this was a little fun, but now I need to get back to the tournament. I need to go chase the big ones.
This is a good time, but this isn't going to cut it. So
no, yeah.
You made the right decision there, obviously. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's good stuff, Hunter. Appreciate the time. You leave our listeners with one little nugget, help them in their angling journey, whether it's tournament fishing or just outdoors alone. What kind of little tip you got to offer them?
I would say that I had a seminar the other day with a bunch of kids that were in the high school fishing world, and they wanted a tip from me too. And I said, just fish as many tournaments as you can. Fish as many tournaments as you can. You might get your butt whooped, but that's what makes you come back, and you try harder, and you get mad. And if you get mad, that's good. If you're mad, get madder, because the madder you are, the more you want to figure it out. And if you want to get up into the National Walleye Tour, you got to fish as many tournaments as you can. You'll see so many different things, and you'll remember so many different things that you did to catch fish in this scenario, or you see it a lot more in tournament fishing, and you learn a ton. So that's what I always did. I fished as many tournaments as I could, and I learned a lot more tournament fishing than I did fun fishing. So
you are 100% correct. Scoping's great, but nothing beats time on the water.
Yep.
And there's a lot more to tournament fishing than just going out and catching 5 fish. It's a massive mental game. So by just doing tournaments and the preparation and time management that goes into it is going to make you a better tournament angler. And then losing sucks. I'm a horrible sore loser, but you become obviously lessons learned.
Yeah.
But that competitive, like you said, if you're pissed, then good.
Yeah, good.
Because that gives you drive. And if you're not pissed, then you probably shouldn't be in this.
Yeah.
You probably just don't care enough or whatever. And I can guarantee you, I'm always pissed. So
well, stay pissed.
Yeah, they just stop losing. Maybe do better. You won't be pissed all the time, right, people? But
Oh man,
that is right. Hey, one last thing. In the Minnesota high school fishing, that's huge over there. I mean,
it's
that
crazy.
is it's yeah, Jimmy Bell and the student angler trail thing is massive, is blowing up, and that's awesome. I noticed your boat wrap, United Heroes.
Yeah,
What tell us just a quick little tidbit about that before we wrap it up.
yeah. So